Okay, I'm live. I got to figure out how to do this. This is my, I'm going to share this. I just got out of Facebook jail, and I think I'm going to quit doing Facebook Lives, or maybe I'll do Facebook Lives and I'll do, um, maybe I'll do both. But I share either way. I can share the Facebook links in my on my website or wherever. I haven't can have them both places, but I think since Facebook put me in jail for Facebook jail, I've been in longest I've been in real jail, incarcerated in Poor Civic up there on Harding Place was 6 days. That's the last time I was arrested, October 31st. It was 6 days. Um, and so Facebook jail. Facebook is they can do what they want to do, and if I just I don't, and YouTube might be just as bad, but anyway. Okay, so I'm going to share this. So I'm going to say I'm going live. Uh, I got so much personal stuff on my other channel, the Lydia Hubble channel. So what's that? Trying to figure this out. I should have done all this before I go live. Okay, so what I want to say is there is let me look it up. I got this questionnaire. It was a candidate thing. I really don't care to go to a immigrant candidate thingy. I'm running for Metro Nashville City Council, District 30. It's a 4-year term, and a year or two ago, I would not have been. I would not have even considered this at all. But things have worked themselves out in such a way that I don't have any reservations about being able to serve on the council. It's a part-time job for 4 years. If I had any reservations, I wouldn't have done this. I would have and I did. I kind of thought about it for a while. Didn't never really. I always thought I really wish somebody better than me would step up and do this, but nobody else did. So I feel like I've got a civic duty, and I'm 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 in it to win it, and I'm not a career politician. I don't want to be a career politician. I'm 53 years old. Um, I haven't worked full time since over 20 years for money. I've been a full time mom, and uh, done a lot of different kinds of volunteer stuff, just as I can do it. But things in my life have changed. My health has improved dramatically, and I'm working part time again. And if I get the city council position, I'll still. I don't know if I'll ever be able to work, like 40 or 60 hour or 60 or 70 hours a week like I used to do, but I do what I can, and I think everybody should do that. All right, let me see here about this. There's where do we see events. It's about immigrant and refugee candidate forum. That's not really something I want to talk about. Immigrants and refugees, because immigrants and refugees aren't going to be voting for me, right? So why do I need to spend 3 hours? I mean, I'm interested. I might listen to it. If I might go to it, especially if my daughter goes. Maybe my daughter and I can go together. Actually, well, I think she said she was interested in it. So I'm not like drawing her into my campaign. Um, Immigrant and refugee candidate. See, cities across details. Cities across the this is Monday night. Cities across the country are taking bold steps to defend immigrant and refugee families and invest in our shared prosperity. Come and learn where candidates for mayor and at-large council members. Okay, so this wasn't one of the things I was gonna. Yeah, I'll go and see what. I guess I should go to that. Mayor and at-large council members, where they stand on key issues and what they believe the city of Nashville should do to stand up for immigrants and refugee communities. I think we should be nice and treat other people the way we'd want to be treated. That's what I think. That's in a nutshell. Um, I believe, and I've got people in my neighborhood who says close the borders, and the so people who think you can't be for closing the border. Well, they don't really mean close the borders. One of the guys came from Texas, so he used to live down there, and he's like, yeah, just close the borders. Um, I think it was genius, absolutely genius, just to tell Mexico, you make your country fit to live in, or we're going to put this tax on y'all's exports. So you got to hit people in the pocketbook, and I wonder why is there so much corruption? Why are there so many problems that can't get fixed over and over and over again? And I think it's corruption. I think it doesn't get fixed because there's people making money off of it and they want to keep making money off of it. I think we don't have cars that get 100 miles an hour or zero emissions. I think that's because people, the powers that be or whatever, they don't want that to happen because it would hurt them financially. And I do think that when we make positive changes that hit people in the pocketbook, you have to rebalance things. Like these DCS, we've got too many DCS caseworkers. Well, if you quit taking I mean, there's just a huge industry built around child abuse and war and drugs, and there's things that I don't really understand all of it. I just know it's not good. And I really think it's shameful that people are coming from Mexico and through Mexico because their own countries aren't fit to live in. So we can't, our country has got major problems without having these extra people come in, and we can't and bringing in all these extra problems. We've got homelessness, we've got children going to bed hungry, we've got families being torn apart, we've got children like my little 10-year-old that's being emotionally abused by the court system. We've got parental alienation that's going on. We've got children being taken from good enough families that poor families. We've got enough problems here. We need to work on our own problems. We need to be able to focus on our own problems. But I think given that put attaching money somehow to stop at the problem. You can't throw enough money like education. You can't, and I'm all for fully funding schools and making sure. I want our kids to be safe, and I want the teachers to be able to do their job as teachers. I don't want I don't want to have to keep throwing money at the schools so that the teachers don't have to be nurses and counselors and social workers. That's not the job. And the school is not the place to deal with these social problems. It's the home, the families, it's the community outside the school. You've got to address the problems that are adversely affecting these children and their ability to have productive experiences at school. You've got to deal with that where they're at, where they're only in the school like 8 hours a day, 180 days a year. What's going on in those children's lives, in their homes, in their families, their extended families, their communities, during the other hours during the other 185 days of the year. That's what I'm concerned about. And just, you got a sinking ship, so let's plug the holes. But ultimately, we need to pull the ship out, fix it right, and solve the problem. And it's the same thing with these kids and people. And it really bothers me because I know how many, not exactly, but I know there's a vast number of children in our own country, American citizens, children who not only were born here, but their parents were born here, their grandparents were born here, and they're not allowed to be protected under the law. We do not have equal justice under law in this country, and that's a shame. And that we've got the laws to protect us, and it's for our good. And when we can't enjoy those protections, our society suffers. So I'm concerned about the families being separated at the border. I'm concerned about why are they coming here? I'm concerned about all the families in these horrible places that, it's like, oh, it's so horrible. We're risking our children's lives to cross the border to get to America so they'll be saved. That's a horrible thing for that country. If they're coming up from different countries, but why have to travel hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles to get to a safe place? And you're not even, and then if everybody's talking about how horrible the conditions are here for the people who come here, why do they keep coming? Is it really that much better here for these people at the border when they cross over? Is it really that much better? If it's that much better, why is everybody complaining about it? I don't understand that. And I've got a brother who's in the Army Reserves, and he's active duty right now down on the border. He's a chaplain. And he's not seeing these people being mistreated. And that's something else. I am so skeptical. I used to believe, and I still do that. If I sit down with somebody and they tell me something, I'm so gullible. But stuff I read and hear, I mean, joking. I mean, not. They eventually tell me they're kidding when I say something, but the people I sit down with and are talking to. But what I read, even when I read in court documents, when I read court opinions, because I know the lies that are told in the court opinion, that they just repeat lies. So unless there's evidence behind it, I take just about everything with a grain of salt anymore. If it's negative, if they say, oh, America's mistreating all these families at the border. Well, I have a lot of questions about that. But so this is Monday night. I probably should put it on my calendar to go to this to see what the mayor and council people have to say about it. I've got a lot of friends who have immigrated here legally. I've got friends who've come here as refugees. I don't know if I personally know anybody who just walked across the border seeking asylum, but my opinion is there's a lot of people suffering. There's a lot of people in line. I like to be fair. It's not fair to let people cut line. It's just not. You got to wait your turn, and it might be a long, hard wait, but that just really undermines justice when you let somebody skip line unless they're in some worse circumstances. But when you've got people in Syria, you've got people in other countries, and they're having to Germany coming here. You've got people from other countries waiting and waiting and waiting to come over here. And then you've got people who just jump the fence across the border and just they don't come through normal channels. That's not fair. That is not justice. It's not justice. And then so that's not something I want to make an issue of. I just say I think I always said, how can you if that I don't want to leave my country, and I've been treated pretty horribly the last few years in my country, in Nashville. My family has been oppressed like I did not think that kind of oppression even existed in America anymore, much less in Music City, USA. So, but even still, I don't want to move to Canada. I don't want to move to Germany. Don't want to move to Mexico. Don't want to move to even to a different state. I was born in Tennessee. I love Tennessee. I plan to stay here till I die. And I am staying here and defending my country from the domestic terrorists. There are people here messing up, they're undermining freedom and liberty for Tennesseans, for Nashvillians, for Americans. And they're making our city unhealthy, our city, our country unhealthy for the natives. So I'm taking a stand trying to address the problems. We've got that power. The people have the power. If the government's not serving the needs in this country, we have the right to reform or alter or abolish it and do something else. And if all those people just ganged up together and instead of coming here, they made a mass dissension onto the capitals of their countries all at one time and said, we're tired of living in a cesspool. The people are taking over, and just overthrow the government and fix things. Fix what needs to be fixed. Don't abandon your country, your mother country. I mean, that's to me that's really sad that in this day and age, on such a rich earth that we live in, and all the resources we have, and all the smart people we have, and all the smart people even outside of our country, we're not limited. We've got the internet, and even people in Guatemala have, and other places south of the border. Why don't even people go to Brazil? Why do they come up here? Why don't they go more south instead of going more north? Um, that's my solution. My solution is don't run them out of your own country. What can we do to help them? All this money that it costs us to feed, clothe, house them, is there not some way that we can make settlements down there maybe where they'll be safe? And I hear about this drug problem. You know what? Way to make the drug problem go away is to quit using drugs. Get rid of the market for it. Why do people even want drugs? That's what I don't get. When I look at, I have never even been tempted ever to touch. I would sooner snort rat poison or eat rat poison. I don't know. I guess you could snort it. I don't even know. As cocaine. And I would not touch it with a 10-foot pole because I know it brings death and destruction. And people say, "Oh, it feels good." Well, that's what everything is. All these things that people get tempted with. At first, oh, it's what the Bible says. Oh, look at the goblet of wine. Ooh, isn't it pretty? And then it's bites like a viper. It's why put yourself. Life is so full of just natural disasters, interpersonal conflicts. You've got enough problems in life. Why create more for yourself? And I have been a compulsive overeater. Yes, I have been a compulsive overeater. And I used to get upset and I would just gorge myself. Gorge, 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 gorge. And I was out of control of my eating. And so out of control. So on some level, and I've been out of control of my emotions before. I used to have a really bad temper. So I understand being in pain and wanting to feel better, but and some people use these substances for self-medication, but that's so much of what I hear is, oh, it makes you feel good. It's fun. Let's go party. Let's party and do drugs. They're not going to a hospital and saying, give me, put me in twilight sleep so I have a few minutes of not experiencing this pain. No, they want to make a party out of it. So that's the problem. The problem is the people who want this, the people who create the market for these drugs. Just stop using the drugs and don't tell your kids to not start them in the first place. And you've got to tell these kids when they're way earlier than you think you need to. You've got to be talking to your kids about sex. You got to be talking to your kids about drugs. You got to be talking to your kids before they're like 8 or 9. Because I've talked to a lot of people who were like 10, 11, 12, and they're becoming alcoholics and or smoking or whatever. The way I do things is I like, oh, you want to go have sex with somebody? 1 out of 4 people have herpes, right? And 1 out of 80% of people have HPV, and there's no cure for that, right? And you know that some kinds of HPV can cause cervical cancer, and there's people died in their 20s from that. That was a sexually uh, acquired illness. If you only have sex with an uninfected partner who only has sex with you, chances are you will not get a sexually transmitted disease that you might die from. And it's the same thing. It's self-control. We've got to teach our kids to be self-controlled. And if you can teach that, tell your kids no. Things that are bad for them, tell them no. And I always told my kids why I'm telling them no. And there's you got to find your own, because I always wanted to know. I always wanted to know why. And some parents say, oh, they just need to just have blind obedience. But there is, there's an argument for that. But I always wanted to have the understanding. I wanted to know the rationale. And then I was more inclined to comply. Except I'm my parents were old school. I got the belt. I never got paddled at school, but I got the belt at home, and sometimes it was deserved, and I'm a better person because of it. And sometimes I felt like it was unfair and heavy-handed and inappropriate. But overall, I've never felt like corporal punishment was wrong, ever, ever. Even the worst beating I ever got, I would not say that corporal punishment is evil, because, but I also will say you can beat some kids to death, and that has been done. You can beat your kids to death, and it still won't break them. You have to know your kids. You have to know what motivates them. You have to have their heart. You have to let them know you care. You have to invest your time in them and your attention in them, and you have to listen to them. And if you do that, they'll listen to you. And when they get older, they have to choose for themselves, because you're not going to be the only one sharing their, thoughts and opinions and values with them. So I got to get ready to go on my next Grubhub shift. But yeah, so I think the tariffs was a good thing. I think people who need to immigrate should come through legal channels and not be a burden on their. I mean, we're not a host country. If you come here without going through proper channels, you're a invader. That's what I think. I mean, if somebody just knocked down my, I mean, yeah, you don't. If you knock on my door and I open my door and invite you in, which is what America's been very welcoming. That's one thing. But if you knock down my door and you come in and you take over my bed, you eat all the food in my refrigerator. I've only got one bathroom, and you know, I can't take care of my own family, or it's an imposition. Why would you want to do that? Why would you? I don't understand. And like I got in trouble. I got banned 3 days off of Facebook from posting on Facebook because I said I didn't understand. I don't understand the gay pride thing. I don't, you know. So it's kind of I just can't wrap. I have not yet, and I do try because I do listen to people talking from different viewpoints. I do that on purpose, and I have people. I'm pretty moderate to conservative on some things, very conservative on some things, like fiscally conservative. That's what Nashville needs right now, most of all, so that we can take care of the things, pay down our debt and take care of our public safety issues and our infrastructure, and get our teachers and police, get invest the money that we need in them. So, but I love immigrants. In Antioch. I'm really tired. I'm fixing to work a couple hours. I try to get some Coke, drink some Coke, and get my energy up. I love diversity. And one reason I was just so crazy about Delara's dad is he was from Turkey. And I'm like, oh, that's so amazing. And when I went to Germany and lived in Germany for 3 years, oh, I got the German, my ex-husband, he's like, you look like you're wearing a costume. But I want to wear the German, I want to wear the dirndls, and I like those hats with the badger, the little badger fur bristle little thingies, and those hats, and the dirndls with the aprons, and I just loved it. I just loved it. And I love the German music. I love German food, and I've got a Kurdish friend. I love the Kurdish food, and their festivals and their clothes. And I love Antioch. I've been living in my house for 16 years. I love it. I've got Hispanic neighbors. I've got Cuban. Let's see, I got these people were originally from Mexico. Their families Texas, Mexico, Cuba. I've got Korea. I've got white people. Got black people. Got Middle Eastern people. And I love it. I love it. I just love it, love it, love it, love it. And I've said it before. I would hate to live in a world where everybody was just like me. Uh, I love the diversity, and my son's up in Minnesota, and there's a whole different kind of demographic up there, and the different accents and things, and he wanted something even more different, unusual than Antioch. But so he's been up in Minnesota. So I have had people attack me. I'm not a professional. I consider myself a professional mother. That's I consider myself a professional mother, and I know a lot about educating kids, and um, I don't know a lot about being a politician. I do know a lot about serving people and caring about people and speaking up for people who are being mistreated, because I do that. I've been doing it my whole life. And I speak up for myself too, because when injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And that's true. And it's true in reverse. Justice anywhere is a threat to injustice everywhere. And there's a lot of, I want to seek justice when I can, because it protects other people. And everything I do now, if I let the oppressors hold sway and I don't speak out against it, my children and grandchildren are going to be having to deal with the consequences of my actions. So, um, I want to say again, I'll put this in the description. If anybody is in my district, District 30, that's from registered voter. If you want to ask me where do I stand, if you're seriously thinking about which candidate you want to vote for and you want to know who I am and where I stand, I'd be glad to talk to you about that. But I'm not going to waste my time in arguments or people telling me, well, you just lost the election because you don't think the way I do. If you don't want to vote for me, don't vote for me. Don't vote for me because I'm white or I'm Christian or I'm conservative or I'm Republican or I'm a high school graduate. Like, I don't even think you've got to. I don't even think you've got to be a high school graduate to be a candidate. I think you just have to be a registered voter and live in the district for a certain period of time. So vote for me because you think out of the 4 candidates running that I'm the one who will be what the best one for the job. I'm honest. I'm solution focused. I'm solution focused. I don't believe in negative campaigning. I don't believe in picking people apart. There's people attacking me, complaining about my flags. Before I moved into this room, I had my flag stuck between the wall. I didn't want to put holes in my wall in a knotty pine, so I stuck my flags. These are I think these are somewhere they're thumbtacked to the wall. But to show you how desperate people are to find the negatives in me, and there's plenty of negative things about me, trust me, without looking for them and picking me apart over little tiny things that don't even matter. What does anybody care what my bangs look like? You know? And some after I made a comment about, you know, pride, and it wasn't even a bad comment. And then other people are like, "Oh, you can't say anything unless you support us. You're against us." It's not true. It's not true. I'm not against anybody. I'm against meanness. That's what I'm against. I'm against waste. I'm against corruption. But I treat other people the way I want to be treated. And if you think that everybody's got their own vote, you're not registered yet, you should go vote. You can go govotn.com. You can register online. I'm not going to beg anybody for their vote because if I'm not the best candidate, well, and if people think I'm not, then great. That's what their vote's for. They go vote at the polls. And just because somebody else wins doesn't mean I wasn't the best candidate, but it's the one that people picked out. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm not gonna run other people down so I can win. I'm not going to complain about, they said something I don't like, except if you talk bad about my friends, or I won't like it. But I'm not. I just want people to be nice to each other and get along. I want us to all be safe. I want I want us to have our needs met. I want the money to be spent, the taxpayer money to be spent where it makes the biggest difference. And I want us to be, the children to get what they need to grow up to be good, productive citizens. And yeah, that's about all I got to say right now. But this is going to be my page where I'm going to do my campaign stuff. And I hope I don't accidentally overlap things. And this isn't really campaign. I mean, I think videos are better because if somebody really wants to know what I'm like, it's better to just see the video. And if you misunderstand me or if you have any questions, because sometimes I say I've written things that were the opposite of what I meant, and it's usually pretty obvious. But sometimes and sometimes I'm wrong. Sometimes I say something and I had to immediately backtrack, and that's good. That's good. When I hear people criticize people for backtracking or backpedaling, I'm like, they need to be backpedaling. Don't shame them for admitting they were wrong. Why would you do that? Why, when somebody says, "Oh, I was wrong," or "I didn't mean it that way, let me go back." Why would anybody say that was a bad thing? That's a good thing. I would just hope you don't have to backpedal or backtrack an excessive amount of the time. I hope most people are right the first time. Um, but I'm glad to backpedal. I'm glad to admit I'm wrong. I'm glad to always open to considering new facts and evidence. Always, always, always. I know how ignorant I am. I know I've always got something to learn. I know that even if I'm an expert on a subject, and I am an expert on some things change, and I want to change my opinion and my mind as new information and evidence dictate. So, are the other candidates as open and honest and willing to consider differing opinions as me? Are they as open minded as me? And I am open minded. Um, I'll compromise when I can, but there's some things you can't compromise. I won't. There's, I think on the city council, we're going to have to make compromises on. We cannot always have everything we want the way we want it. And as a mom, I know that, and everybody should know that. And it doesn't mean your council person it doesn't have all the control in the world either. So um, I would appreciate support, and if you don't think I'm the best candidate, then don't vote for me. Um, but if you think um, if you're considering me and you want to know more about me or you have questions, feel free. Contact me. Contact me on YouTube now. You can contact me in the comments. You can send me your email. My email is lydiahubble@msn.com. My website for my campaign, you can contact me through there. Lydia Hubble for council.com.